TMNT Mutant Melee for Nintendo Gamecube, also available for PlayStation 2, Xbox Original, and I think it even got a PC release. Check out this funny blurb in the back of the box. Run with the turtles as they trash, smash, and bash their way to victory in the ultimate 4-player Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action game. Yeah, sorry, but unless they've included the original 1989 arcade game, or Turtles in Time, or both for that matter, calling this the ultimate 4-player Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action game is, well, you're just setting yourselves up for disappointment. Since in the minds of most old-school gaming enthusiasts, Konami broke that ground years ago, and anything that's come along since, well, let's just say failed to make waves of a similar sort. But regardless, we shall not let that tidbit take away from the overall quality and potential of TMNT Mutant Melee, because, Pete knows this game needs plenty of quality and potential to help it out. Should probably put this into the Gamecube. We'll take care of that soon enough.
TMNT Mutant Melee is a 4-player fighting game thing where you choose from a cast of over 20 characters, some being available from the start while others need to be unlocked, and you fight various opponents to come out on top. Normally you have some basic attacks to turn into combos, as well as a couple special moves that you could pull off with some simple button combinations. As you land blows, you'll fill the circular meter, and once it's full, you can pull off a super move to dish out additional damage and stuff. In addition to your standard arsenal of attacks, there are boxes that you could break open that will either contain usable weapons of the close range or projectile variety, or will probably also contain power-ups such as health boosts and invulnerability shields. Your foes are not the only threats that you have to deal with, as each arena sometimes poses their own dangers that will impede your progress to the top of the food chain. The game boasts two main modes: the adventure mode, where you pick a character and play through their individual stories while unlocking additional characters, arenas, and other tidbits, including the entirety of the very first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book from 1984, and then there's the Melee mode, where you can play a quick match with either the computer opponents or other human players and set up various conditions for winning, whether it be the last turtle standing, scoring a number of set KOs, or scoring a number of points through various means. Konami has developed a number of quality Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video games during its time with the license, whether it be the popular arcade titles or some of the console releases. Sadly, TMNT Mutant Melee does not particularly rank high on this list, and if anything feels somewhat shallow. The game is basically a take on the old Capcom arcade game Power Stone, where you roam around a 3-dimensional arena picking up weapons and objects to beat your opponents to a living pulp. However, while Power Stone had fast-paced action and some semblance of personality, Mutant Melee is very much the opposite. A game that feels like it was seemingly rushed to market, and as such ends up being something of an underwhelming experience. Part of it has to do with controls, which feel rather clunky, is prone to delay, and generally speaking feels somewhat underwhelming for a fighting game type environment. You have 2 attack buttons that you could chain into little combos, and there's even a couple special moves or 2 in there. But honestly, there's a little incentive to explore any of that stuff, since you could just mash the one button to build up your super meter and go from there, and that can only take you so far eventually. Another part of the quibbles that plague Mutant Melee is the general gameplay, which feels more akin to a side-scrolling beat-em-up than a proper fighting game. That probably doesn't mean much on paper, but a beat-em-up is a much simplified affair, while a fighting game is a little more involved. Fighting games tend to have unique characters with unique movesets and strategies, while a beat-em-up, at its most basic level at least, has characters that might look like they do different things, but are all just similar at the end of the day, and the differences basically boils down to which character hits harder or which one moves faster. Mutant Melee may have a couple dozen characters to play with and some to unlock, but the differences between each character is only surface level. Playing as a turtle like Leonardo or Michelangelo doesn't feel any different from playing as Casey Jones or a random foot soldier, no matter what kind of moves they pull off. Doesn't help matters that Mutant Melee suffers from another beat-em-up ailment, repetitive gameplay. After a dozen or so fights, you come to realize that the settings and characters within don't matter because it plays out pretty much the same way. There are enemies to knock out, hazards to avoid, some crates to smash, and prizes within to claim. Regardless of whether you're hopping buildings demolished by bombs or fighting within enclosed rooms, whether it's straight up fisticuffs or chasing a light beams in the sky for points, it all ends up being mindless, monotonous tedium that lacks soul or charm that makes these sort of games worthwhile. Even the time-honored fallback to at least the multiplayer is fun feels a bit shallow here. Yes, I suppose 4-player multiplayer fun is a good time to be had by all, but when you're playing this game on a system that also has Super Smash Bros. Melee, as well as other more enjoyable multiplayer experiences, well, let's just say the staying power isn't strong with Mutant Melee in that regard. Graphically speaking, Mutant Melee is not the most splendid looking game on the market. While it manages the art style of the animated series just fine, everything seems to have a very flat look to it, with its drab colors and cheap looking set pieces. I suppose it's similar to the look of the other Konami releases based on this Turtles incarnation, but now everything is smaller and harder to see, which doesn't exactly complement this particular art style. Add to that the occasional bouts of slowdown and even some frame skipping, and it's not the most appealing Turtles game to look at. Mind you, it's not completely terrible because I've seen worse looking Turtles games, but this is not graphical splendor either. This is a case, as usual, of your mileage varying. Sound-wise, not that great either. The music is kind of bland and forgettable, but to be fair, I don't recall if this is music taken from the actual 2003 cartoon, or just some original pieces based on the style that the cartoon used. I haven't seen the cartoon in years, so I don't recall any of the musical cues from the show other than the main theme. In any event, the musical side of things doesn't really impress. Sound effects are functional, and that's the best I can say about that. And they did get the voice actors from the cartoons to record a few lines here and there, so that's something? I guess, I suppose. I don't have much to say in this regard. Sound-wise, not great. Overall, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Melee is the token licensed title that is rushed to market in order to make a quick buck, and it shows. I wanted to say that at least it tried, but honestly, I don't even know if that's the case. The gameplay is shallow, the presentation is shockingly lackluster, there doesn't seem to be any semblance of charm or soul to the game that makes it fun to play through. I suppose for mindless button-mashing multiplayer fun, Mutant Melee might be fun for a lark, and who knows, you might enjoy it a little or even a lot more than I did. But to me, the Turtles' take on the competitive fighter was already done better generations prior with the Tournament Fighter trilogy of games, and even the later Smash Bros. Inspired Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up game from Ubisoft is a much more satisfying game than Mutant Melee could ever hope to be. This one just didn't do it for me. And that's a total bummer, dude.